Hello, today the PC-12 arrived in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is the Pilatus PC-12 Turboprop. So it's fast, it's fun, and it's actually quite well featured for a Carenado aircraft. So let's go and have a look inside it. It's available from the Microsoft Store. You can see it's very nicely modelled inside. If you go and have a look around in the cabin. I haven't tried anything like the doors or anything yet. I don't think doors or anything work. The tables work though. Table both sides, so yeah, they both work. I'm not quite sure what this is about at the back. Presumably if we put some cargo in, it might appear, but we're not going to play with that. So anyway, I haven't been able to find any instructions for this yet. So I've been following my nose around the cockpit and I've pretty much got it down of what is required. So we look overhead and there's the electric panel is overhead. We turn on the battery 1 switch and then we turn on the battery 2 switch and we turn on the generator 2 switch. We turn on generator 1, Avionics 1 and 2. And then we can go over here as well and we can switch on the probe heat, which is obviously electric. We can turn on the nav lights, the beacon lights, because we're about to go and switch the engine on. So we can then basically switch the starter on for the engine. Now this is quite interesting. It took me a while to figure this one out. So we can move the handrails out of the way and we can let's move the camera so you can see this. So we put the condition to ground idle. Now the thing that I missed to begin with is down here there's the fuel shut-off lever. So we're going to push that in, which obviously introduces fuel, otherwise nothing really comes alive. So we can see now the propeller is whizzing round. If I shown outside, there you go. The propeller is busy accelerating. So we're waiting for the aircraft just to come up to speed basically. While we're waiting for it, we can go and play with the altitude on the altimeter. Oh, we can do the calibrating the altimeter, so press B and that will calibrate the barometric pressure for us automatically. It's got some nice touches around the cockpit, so you've got a partially glass cockpit. So this panel down here with HSI, ARC and nav controls this screen here. So we can see that's the HSI, it's got an ARC mode and a nav mode. Obviously you've got the attitude indicator, we've got a GNS 530, GPS over here, fairly standard. And down here we've got this combined display that does all sorts of things. So if we press any of the soft keys on it, we get to see a map display, and the roller down here takes us through the modes. So you've got the traffic display, you've got trip display, nearest airport list. I guess this will show Navigraph maps if you've got them installed, and radar. Okay, so there's various things you can do on the map display. So you can change the base map to show your terrain. You can have weather radar on if you want to. You can declutter. So it's all pretty clever stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do while we're sat here with the engine running, burning fuel, is do a very short flight from Essendon over to... Sorry, no, we're at Moorabbin, sorry. We're at Moorabbin in Melbourne. We're going to fly over to Essendon. So if we go and have a quick look at the map, see we're down here at Moorabbin, we're going to fly across to Essendon, which is only 17 miles away. So we'll fly more of a northerly direction and we'll have a play with the autopilot along the way. Okay, so let's increase the condition of the propeller to flight. Actually, we don't need to yet. We'll pull it back. We'll take flaps to takeoff position. Come off the parking brake and we should start rolling straight away, and we have. sim is being very stuttery. I think it's because it's loading assets in, basically. So let's go and press F. Let's sit up with the spacebar. Yeah, it's much smoother now. It's not loading any aeroplanes in there nearby. So we'll just go down to the end of the runway. Ground handling seems to be quite good. You do need to keep the speed down in order for the nose wheel steering to be able to turn any sort of angle. If you get more than walking pace, it doesn't like turning. So you can see we're just above sea level here. So we'll climb out to 2,000 feet. It's similar to the autopilot of this model that you'll have seen in other aircraft. I think is it Bendix, the make? So we'll have a look in a moment. Before we come onto the runway, let's just have a quick look at that. So it has a vertical speed mode. You can see I've already armed the altitude, which is fine. The actual control panel for the autopilot, if we sit back down, is here. So we can set a heading. So if we go and have a look at little nav map, if we did want to go this direction, let's do a measurement from here. So about 338 degrees we want to fly. So to do that, the course and the heading are on this panel here, and they reflect obviously on the HSI if you have this on HSI mode. But we will need to change this away from GPS to VLOC or VOR mode. So we'll change the heading then to, what did we say it was? About 358, did I say? Something like that. So change the heading to 358, well it's nearly 360 anyway. Okay, that should be good. So let's go and roll out onto the runway and see how we get on. Oh, that really is stuttering, isn't it? I wonder if there's something going on with the sim today, maybe. Okay, full throttle. So aircraft's accelerating, 70 knots, 80 knots, and rotate, and gear up, and flaps up, we're coming through 100 knots. You can see Melbourne out there in the distance, and we will engage autopilot. But before we do that, let's go and push the knob here and set our vertical speed that we want to climb out to 1,000 feet a minute. So autopilot on. We're going for heading mode, vertical speed mode engaged. It's armed for 2,000 feet, so it's going to climb at 1,000 feet a minute to get to 2,000 feet. So it's just sorting itself out and doing that, which seems to be quite good. Okay, so we've got a autopilot trim light coming on. Obviously that means the autopilot's doing its work. So if we go and have a look up overhead, we can go and turn the strobes on, and I think we're pretty good to go with everything else. So again, I haven't seen any instructions for this yet, so I'm just going to pull the engine back, gain a caution because we're overstressing the engine. So you can see we're coming up through 190 knots. And we're closing in on our captured. We've got capture on our target altitude of 2,000 feet, which is good. You can see the centre of Melbourne over there in the distance. So let's have a look at this thing from outside. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's kind of reminiscent of the TBM. It's not as fast as the TBM, but you can't have everything, I guess. Okay, let's have a look at a little nav map and see where we are. Okay, so we'll turn 30 degrees left So we come in on the ILS, 109.90 we're looking for on the ILS. So we'll do the heading change first. So let's come in at 330 degrees and we want to go and change this to 109.90. So the HSI has come alive. We'll change the course now to the runway direction, which is 256 degrees. We'll cut the engine back as well, we're going far too fast. So 256 on the course. Can we get there before the aeroplane does? It's quite slow moving, the course knob, but we'll get there. So it's 280, 270, 260, 258 degrees. Okay, so that now reflects the runway direction. So you can see we're coming in towards the ILS. And running at 50% throttle, it's quite happily chugging away 200 knots. It's very, very rapid. Is that still the autopilot trim? I think it's just indicating that the autopilot is trimming. So again, I'm very, very green with this aircraft. I don't really know it at all well yet. So there's a lot of switches under here, under the yoke. I have no idea. Obviously this is EFIS displays and stuff, but HRS, no idea. But the basics for controlling the screens are quite cool. This instrument down here is quite funky though, you know, with being able to see all these different views. It's quite nice. Anyway, let's keep an eye on this. So you can see we're getting closer. Yeah, we need to do a left turn right now. So come off the autopilot, turn in. We're going to go for approach mode on the autopilot. So let's go and press it up here. We are still below the glide slope, so we should be able to capture quite easily. So let's press the autopilot again and cut the throttle back. You can see the runway out in front of us. So approach mode is on, the autopilot is on. We're just going to manage speed on the way in. Interestingly, this hasn't indicated airspeed mode, but I'm not quite sure where we set the speed. So I'm not going to fiddle with that today. So we're going to go for cutting the throttle back. It should capture the glide slope any moment, the nose should dip. There it goes. Gear down. I haven't actually tested to see if it has spoilers at all yet. Should we try it? So we can see the aircraft here. Let's go and pull the spoiler lever. Can't see any spoilers kicking out. So coming in just above, or just under 100 knots, so I'm going to open the throttle gently to arrest our deceleration. Let's go for full flaps. Should go and put the landing lights on. So yeah, it's really cool. So gear is down, we've got 3 green lights, flaps are on landing position. And there's the airfield ahead of us. Doing about 70 knots now, 80 knots, sorry. Just increasing the speed gently. Let's have a look at it from outside. Whoops. It's a very pretty aeroplane, isn't it? Okay, I better go and get ready to take over. We're getting down to kind of decision height, a few hundred feet. So I'm going to pull the autopilot and I have control. Decelerate. We're above the glide slope, so the autopilot on approach mode didn't do a wonderful job, did it? Just coming back down onto the glide slope. A little bit of turbulence, but not much. Let's see what it stalls like onto the runway. It's very consistent, very smooth. Okay, so there you go. The PC-12 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Pretty cool, isn't it? I'm terrible at steering the aircraft from outside. So I'm guessing we come down to the end of here and then we can turn right out towards the taxiway and the parking area. I think some of these gauges are quite heavy on frame rate. Either that or the scenery I've chosen to fly in today is quite heavy on frame rate, perhaps. I think that's probably the truth. Yeah, you saw there, I obviously started to turn when the aircraft was far too fast. It's done it again, look. It doesn't like turning above about walking pace. The nose wheel really doesn't like it. So let's go and park next to this Kodiak over here. Yeah, you can see it again there, look. I'm obviously giving it far too big an input. We're going to park over here in the middle of the parking area. Okay, so parking brake on. And what do we do next? We cut the engine. Obviously things are going to die down. We get a master caution, obviously, because we are no longer probably generating anywhere near enough fuel, so we can turn all the lights off. We can turn off the probe heat. And we can turn off those generators. And we can turn off the avionics, and we can turn off the battery, and we're back where we started. Now, I've not actually tried opening any doors or any aircraft. Now, this doesn't have doors that you can open in the cockpit area, so presumably this door must work, you would hope. So is it the lever? Yes, it's the lever. And oh my word, it works. Very cool. So there you go. This is, oops, let's move the camera in a bit more controlled manner. This is the PC-12. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Very pretty aeroplane. Yeah, I think the scenery's chewing up the graphics card a little bit. So if we go to the outside view, and have a quick look around, see what the modelling's like up close. It's very, very good, isn't it? I wonder if we can move the control surfaces without any power to the systems. Yes, we can. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. That's the PC-12 in Microsoft Flight Simulator from Carenado. It's about £20 in the UK, so I guess you'll have to look at exchange rates to find out what that is in your currency, wherever you are in the world. It's not study level, but it's good fun, and it's going to be interesting to see what some of those different systems inside the aircraft, how they work. I can't get back inside the aeroplane. Let's go into the camera menu and go to cockpit, and that's not what I wanted. Fixed look, and press F. Oh, that was why. I confused myself because I moved the internal view, didn't I? Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what works and what doesn't work. Obviously that window doesn't work. Do the shades work? Yes, the shades work. It's always fun, isn't it, with a new aeroplane to see what works and what doesn't. But yeah, it's very strange because obviously there are systems in here I've never seen before. And it's going to take a little while to become comfortable with where switches and things are. Obviously Autopilot's up here. You've got the display controls over here. So that's kind of reminiscent of the MD-82, strangely enough. The breakers aren't operational, but then you wouldn't expect that in a Carenado aircraft, to be honest. Anyway, there you go. The PC-12 in Flight Simulator. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.